Welcome into SportsZone All Access here on this Wednesday, February the 4th already. You know, we have our new show, Countdown to Summit League. You can find that on KELOLAND Plus from yesterday's show. 1 month from today, we kick off the Summit League tournament.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so buckle up, and it's going to go by quickly. And yeah, it's going to go by really quickly. Let's just put it that way.
We're doing a deep dive over on that show on not just the South Dakota Summit League teams, but all the Summit League teams and the news that comes with that. So definitely be sure to check that out if you're looking for more before the tournament starts. We're hoping to help ourselves and help you guys feel ready to go once postseason play starts.
Well, it's certainly helping myself because we cover SDSU and USD every week. You know, it's part of the job, and so I know who's playing good for them. But then you start looking around and going like, oh, this team's playing good, and this team's playing good, and it really, like I said, it expands my knowledge of the conference. And I think next week we're gonna have a little fun and do predictions of quarterfinals. I'm not kidding. I think we're gonna do this. We're gonna predict what the quarterfinals will look like, so that way in 3 weeks later, when they actually get announced, we'll be like, wow, we weren't even close. But that's the fun part.
Based off of what we've seen so far, I think it's going to be a toss-up right up until the standings are released on February 28th. So we'll see.
Especially in the middle. You know, I feel like in women's side 1 through 4, we're confident on. 5, 6, 7, 8.
It's just
pretty
similar
gummed
for
up.
the men's
side, it's like
1, 2, 3.
The one we know, 2, 3 could go either way. 4, 5, 6 could go any way. You know, so yeah, it'll be fun. Big Summit League action coming up tonight. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Actually, a few teams in action tonight. Big one going on in Brookings too. We'll talk about that in a bit. But we're going to dive into talking about some big news out of the NFL that happened on Tuesday, kind of. I mean, they beat the Packers a few weeks ago to end the season, and they gave Ham a touch. He ran it in for a 1-yard touchdown that game. Had the 8th of his career, 6th rushing touchdown, 8th total of his career. And after the game, he was emotional. They interviewed him on the field, which they don't often interview the fullback on the field after the game. They did that. The crowd went nuts. All the players hugged him and gave him love. And it seemed like a farewell, Kelsey. And it was. It just wasn't official. Yesterday, Tuesday, they finally announced, his agency did, that it is official. CJ Ham will be retiring from the NFL after 10 seasons with the Vikings. 1 was practice squad and 9 years playing.
Right. A really incredible career to look back on. And like you said, a lot of uncharacteristic things going on in that last game against the Packers. But, we both know as journalists, we're not going to come out with that information point blank until we have it confirmed from the source. And so I think that's kind of what held it up, is just waiting for this is actually happening. Because you never know. I mean, some people go into retirement and then hate it and come out. Cough, cough, Tom Brady. So, it's really free.
Tom had time to play yet, though.
Free will.
Knew that.
Free will is a thing, though. And if he really, really wanted to play another season, I guess technically he could have.
I think he's happy with where he is. I mean, here's a guy that's an undrafted free agent out of Augustana, and that's why we cover him so closely, because of what he did here in Sioux Falls. He loved his time here. He met his wife here. He's told me many times in interviews that they'd love to settle down here someday and raise their family here. So he really likes the Sioux Falls community. But here's a guy that got a chance. They practice squatted him because he's a big physical guy. Probably was great to go against, as they'd line him up as an opposing team, right? And he just kept working. And once he got on the active roster, I think his talent was good, but I think the way he carried himself was a whole nother thing. I mean, he's a fullback / special teamer that was a team captain the last couple of seasons.
That's not heard of.
And made a Pro Bowl twice.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not heard of, because it's just the way he carried himself. I remember talking to Alexander Madison, a former running back on the team, and they said he's like a dad to us. He's like, we love him, the way he teaches us about life and football all in one. He says is amazing. And so, that's a story we'll have to maybe go dig up a little bit. It was a couple of years ago we went to training camp, but he spoke so highly of him. Maybe we have to find that soundbite for the CJ Ham story we do this week.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, it's amazing. And he felt blessed with it too, We talked to him before the season started in July at training camp. This is what CJ had to say.
It's always a blessing. The more training camp approaches, the more I get to kind of sit back and just look back at my career, look back at my life, and just see how fortunate and blessed I have been to have opportunities to come out here and play for 10 years.
Yeah, he knows it. He knows that there's a little bit of extra blessing that came with this because you just don't see fullbacks have this career like that. Especially, I love him, but he didn't get a lot of touches, especially when O'Connell came in a few years ago. They didn't run many fullback sets, and they still found a way to keep him on the team, keep giving him money that they could have saved elsewhere because I think they knew what he meant to the team beyond the talent and skill set that he just brought to the table.
Well, and that speaks to as much of the blessing that he talks about his career being to his hard work and determination to keep going, because a lot of people would not be able to continue doing that. And I think wishing him and his family all the best in his retirement, that's a really large transition, going from playing a sport your entire life to not anymore. So
I could see him being a coach someday. I mean, the way that the other players talk about him as a leader on the football field, you can't tell me he couldn't lead a program somewhere. I mean, easily as a college coach, or if you wanted to get in as a running backs coach somewhere, I guarantee he could get that opportunity.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what his career, what his life looks like after playing football.
Looks forward to following that. That's
yeah, it'll be fun.
That's for sure. Another big headline from this week. It actually happened on Monday. We didn't get a chance to talk about it in Tuesday's busy show. So here we are on Wednesday talking about it. Ashlyn Koupal becomes the second South Dakotan ever to be named to the McDonald's All-American Games. This is a huge honor for high school basketball. I think there's 15 players or so on each roster, an East and a West roster. That is 30 girls from across the entire country, Kelsey, that get this honor. She's one of them. That's pretty special.
And for context, Nebraska had 3 nominees.
Yeah, the Cornhuskers.
Yes.
Yeah.
The school that she is committed to play basketball at next year had 3
correct.
nominees. She is the one who is selected. I mean, her career speaks for itself. And getting to speak with the family multiple times, it's been really nice to get to know them.
Yeah.
And she's a really down-to-earth girl. So really cool to see all of this exciting stuff come to fruition for her. And I have a feeling this isn't going to be the last of a big honor that she'll receive. Yeah,
I'm sure there'll be more on the way, that's for sure. She, by the way, joins Mike Miller, Mitchell native, who went on and played in the NBA for multiple teams, won a championship with the Miami Heat. He was the other McDonald's All-American. So
one of two.
I mean, and think about that. Miller was a long time ago in high school. So this is some credit to Koupal. It's not easy. I said there's 30. Think about how many just in South Dakota, and then in the country, there are thousands and hundreds of thousands of high school athletes. 30 get selected for this. It really is a big deal. It really is.
Really exciting stuff for them. And they're Pats fans, so they've had a big month. Between this and the Super Bowl, I think they're having a good time over in Wagner.
Fun.
They're having a nice month of February.
All right, with that, we'll move on to a new segment that we're going to start doing every Wednesday. It's Plays of the Week. They're back, and we're ready to bring them to you when we come back to SportsZone All Access. Welcome back to SportsZone All Access. Kelsey had to run off and do a story, and so we'll be looking forward to the story that she had to do. And so that gives me a chance to dive through the top plays. It's our new weekly segment. We'll do it every Wednesday, and we'll dive through the top plays that we've seen from the past 7 days. So we're looking back from last Wednesday through yesterday, through Tuesday. So here we go. Our honorable mention this week goes to Molly Joyce and the USD Coyotes with a sweet move here. They beat SDSU in this win. It was a great game, but this move specifically, a great move to get by her defender and then knock down the jumper. USD, we know, went on to win by 19 points over the Jackrabbits, and it included this sweet play. She was one of several that had a great night in the win for the Coyotes. And so certainly a nice play there. And they made a lot of nice plays that night. Obviously, Angelina Robles was fire from deep. So was Elise Terubiatis. And they went on and picked up a big win over their in-state rival, SDSU. Now at number 5, top play of the week is defense to offense for Joe Seiler. Had that nice block on one end, then the other way, couple quick passes. And who else? Joe Seiler knocks down the triple. It gave SDSU a strong lead early, forced a timeout by Oral Roberts, and just a great play. Big man down low for Oral Roberts, the guard. Joe Seiler comes over, makes the play, and then eventually leads to a nice 3 at the top of the key. They're up 14 at the time. That made it 17. Yeah, forcing a timeout. A pretty little play there by Joe Seiler as the Jackrabbits went on to cruise past Oral Roberts in a nice win in Brookings this past Saturday. Let's move to number 4. It goes to Vermilion, and it goes to a team that played Oral Roberts as well last week, I should say, about a week ago. It was Cameron Fens taking the alley-oop lob from a teammate and throwing it down. I tell you what, he made this look really easy, which is why it's number 4. It probably is harder than it looks. He got full extension there. He's been fantastic this year. He got hurt right before the Summit League tournament last year. They didn't have him in the tournament. They would have loved to have him playing in the Summit League tournament. He was out. And so now this year, he has come back strong and fantastic, and he's been a rock down low for them. They don't have a ton of depth in the paint, but they haven't needed it because of how good Cameron Fens has been this year, including this sweet alley-oop slam in their victory over Oral Roberts a week ago in Vermilion. Number 3, courtesy of Augustana Athletics, Malia Elliott drives inside, step back, knocks it down at the horn. A buzzer beater to win the game. Exciting. And they struggled to score in the final few minutes of that game. They had a nice lead. They did. And then the gap gets closed. And the next thing you know, it's coming right down to the final wire. And it's Malia Elliott who comes through here. Just a great play. They give her the ball. They wanted their guard with the ball in her hand, a chance to maybe make a play with Isabella Sane. She got double teamed. So that left one-on-one with Elliott. Elliott knocks it down on a big play, and the Augustana women improved to 6-10 in conference play, following that 57-56 win over Minnesota Duluth. A good victory for the Vikings. Our number 2 play of the week takes us to the KELOLAND Sports Game of the Week. This was a big bucket, both for timeliness and I think difficulty of it. Watch again on the replay. Great hustle by Kauai Mayen to sprint underneath the hoop, grab the rebound off the Colby Nutbrock miss, and then flip it up and in just before the buzzer. Look at this. Great athleticism. He didn't beat the horn by less than a half a second. It was close. Now, why was it such a big bucket? It's because that layup helped Jefferson cap a big third quarter that gave the Cavaliers their first lead of the game to end the third quarter. They didn't have one the whole game. Then they carried that momentum into the fourth quarter. It was a big momentum play. Gave them that lead. Then they carried that momentum into the fourth quarter and held Mitchell at arm's length, went on to win by 6 points. It was a great win for the Cavaliers to snap their losing streak of 3 games, get back in the win column, and do it with a really sweet play from Kauai Mayen. We wrap it up. The number 1 play of the week, Marshawn Smith. He goes soaring for the big slam for Northern State, the 6'5" junior guard out of California. Look at that. Oh, he just kind of hung there. Watch the replay. You can see it here. It looks, okay, it's a cool play, right? And then they get this other angle from the other end of the court, and it shows, look at this. He just flies, just hangs there for a minute and throws it down. It's an awesome play by Marshawn Smith, an awesome play by the Wolves. And it was a momentum builder. It was a big part of the reason that Northern State was able to get back in the win column. They had a 4-game losing streak, lost to Concordia St. Paul, at Minnesota State, at St. Cloud State, and then at home against USF on the first half of I Hate Winter weekend. But then they responded with a win over SMSU, a 70-63 win over the Mustangs, and you can give some credit to this great Marshawn Smith dunk where he goes flying through the air. You can give some credit to him for them being able to pick up that nice victory on their way to snapping that 4-game losing streak. So big kind of on that, big on the win, and a momentum builder there at the end of the first half to help the Wolves split on I Hate Winter Weekend, a win over SMSU and a loss over USF. Well, those were our top plays of the week. We're going to start doing that every week here on SportsZone All Access. Something to give you what the top plays that we've seen from the last week. And as you've seen, some of it will come from what we've shot. Some of it will also come from around the area, as we saw this week with some Augustana and Northern State video that we used this week as well. So a lot of fun plays. You saw it there. We'll have some more again for you next week. Well, we're going to continue talking some high school hoops when we come back to SportsZone All Access. Welcome back to SportsZone All Access, and there was a lot of good basketball that was played on Tuesday night in high school hoops. We saw the KELOLAND Sports Game of the Week, a doubleheader in Sioux Falls as well, and that's what we're going to talk about as we dive into those matchups. Starting off with the KELOLAND Sports Game of the Week, Ian Sachs and myself were on the call at Jefferson High School. Great game. First half, Colton Smith had 15 first half points, including this impressive layup. Went on to only score 17, so held in check to just 2 points in the second half. This play was crazy. Jace Unzin to Colby Nutbrock, back to Unzin for the lay-in. That got momentum going, and then they'd finally take the lead here at the end of the third quarter. We said this was one of our plays of the week. Colby Nutbrock misses. Kawhi May in there for the O-board and put back. Oh, an impressive little play there. That gave them their first lead of the game. And then they just carried that momentum. They were down 12 midway through the second quarter, and then they just went on a heater, went on and outscored Mitchell by 18 points in the second half. Colby Nutbrock led all scorers with 22 points. Kawhi Mayen had this sweet steal and slam on the way to the victory. But yeah, they had 4 guys scoring double figures, and Jace Unzin ended up with 9. So 4 guys in double figures, 1 guy just outside of double figures, and Colby Nutbrock with a game-high 22. That's a recipe for success, and Jefferson's certainly playing well in the win. Some frustrating second-half play for Mitchell. Yeah, I mean, they had a 12-point lead in the second quarter, and then Jefferson figured it out, got the gap down to 6 at halftime, then outscored them by 7 in the third quarter and had a 1-point lead, and then have outscored them by 5 in the fourth quarter to win by 6, 67-61. Great game on the KELOLAND Sports Game of the Week. We have more coverage next week. We have a great game. Number 1 versus number 3 in girls Class AA basketball. The Brandon Valley Lynx. They've been really good this year. We'll travel to play Washington. Should be a good one there in our KELOLAND Game of the Week on Tuesday next week. Other action that happened this past Tuesday, the T-Area boys went to O'Gorman as part of a doubleheader, and the girls' game was played first, but the boys' game was a thriller at night. There's a couple of great shots down the stretch that they went on to win this game. In fact, they trailed at halftime, but were able to just gut it out, 65-61, in a battle and a thriller between 2 teams that certainly think they have chances to make the state tournament this year. Derek Roby and the O'Gorman Knights, last year coaching for Derek Roby. He's stepping down after this year, which is disappointing news for a guy that's had a ton of success. Unfortunately, he is stepping away. And so this is a big season for him and O'Gorman, right? They're trying to make it memorable for Derek Roby. Both these teams are not in the top 5 rankings, but just outside of that. But I think they're in that mix with the 4 or 5 ranked teams in the state. I think Lincoln's number 1. I think Roosevelt and Harrisburg are not far behind at 2 and 3. And then you have a chunk of teams, Watertown, Huron, O'Gorman, T-Area, all right there, trying to vie for those several spots in the state tournament. So that's something to keep an eye on as that time goes. But one team that's not going to be struggling anytime soon, or the way that they're playing, is this O'Gorman girls team. They lost to Brandon Valley game 1 of the season, have since now rattled off 11 straight victories. The Titans were who they beat last night, cruising past them by 30 points. And this is a good T-area team, that, again, is just outside the top couple, but is finding a way to have success. That's Ruby Moore. She's been great this season. But honestly, that's the thing I'm intrigued about is in Class AA, you have Brandon Valley number 1, O'Gorman is number 2. Then you have Washington, who's number 3, and I think those two are all on separate tiers. And then there's a lot of teams right behind them, 4 or 5, just outside the rankings. I think this T-area team is one of those teams that's just outside the rankings that certainly has some talent. But the question will be, can they continue to build off of what they've done lately? No, who knows? But they ran into an O'Gorman juggernaut on Tuesday night. The Knights have such great press. They have so much athleticism and speed, and they make you turn it over. They make you make mistakes, and that's what they did on Tuesday night on their way to a victory at home against the T-area Titans. So some more high school hoops coming up this week. It's a busy Thursday, Friday, and then a super busy Saturday. The DAC-12 NEC Clash on the girls' side is back with 3 ranked matchups in that one. The big matchup is Lennox versus Hamlin, which is 2 versus 3. Hamlin was in a tight one on Tuesday night against Millbank. And then you also have the Heritage Classic going on at the Sanford Pentagon this weekend. The big matchup there is the Smith boys and Sioux Valley boys meeting at 7 o'clock at the Sanford Pentagon, which should also be a really good game. Well, we're going to wrap up today's show by telling you what's coming up tonight on SportsZone on KELOLAND Sports tonight at 6 and 10. We'll do that when we return to SportsZone All Access. Welcome back to SportsZone All Access. Wrapping up today's show by telling you what's coming up tonight on KELOLAND Sports at 6 and 10. We're going to talk with the USD men's basketball team. They have had an interesting season. 5 season-ending injuries to players. They've been tight on roster numbers. They've had to do a unique thing where they picked up a couple of NAIA players that were not playing anymore. And so we'll have that unique story coming up tonight on KELOLAND Sports at 10. We'll also hear from Augustana Hockey ahead of Michigan Tech. Oh, and some big games going on tonight. The Skyforce are at home. So are the SDSU men taking on St. Thomas in a big game. Well, that'll do it for us. Thanks for tuning in to SportsZone All Access, and we'll see you on Thursday.